Local leaders are hoping a new facility will increase safety when it comes to election security.
Plus, the supper club in McFarland heavily damaged tonight in a fire.
And the leaves are starting to change. What makes for the ideal fall foliage and when we can expect to see it? That's coming up. You're watching News 3 Now at 10. And thanks for joining us. We are still, of course, weeks away from the November election, but local clerks are already preparing for the next round of midterms.
McKenna Alexander breaks down the plans for a new election center and shares what its construction would mean for Dane County. McKenna?
Yeah, plans for the new location are still in the early stages, but already Dane County officials can tell me its construction will create an added layer of safety during elections. And that safety isn't just for your ballot.
When you have so many people who don't believe in the outcomes of the election and they're listening to disinformation, I think we're going to have to live with this for a while.
Despite a legitimate win by President Biden in 2020, skepticism surrounding election integrity continues to grow, even 2 years later. But more and more voters questioning ballot security means more and more election officials questioning personal security.
The safety for clerks has really become an issue the last few years. The threats against election officials in Wisconsin, around the country. We really need to make sure that folks feel safe doing their job.
Alongside added security for clerks and poll workers, McDonald says the new office will provide security for critical election equipment, pointing out the fact that the county's equipment has already been destroyed by floods on 2 separate occasions.
We also just need the simple security part of it, which is climate controlled, safe from water. So mostly it's just professionalizing and protecting this, election infrastructure.
The new election office will also provide enough space to insource election workflow, compared to right now when tasks such as ballot printing, sorting, packaging, and shredding have to be contracted out of Dane County.
I think the clerks will be happy, too, to have a place to safely store ballots, poll books, equipment. It'll be easier to service it, so there'll be a lot of advantages to having a centralized facility.
McDonald says because of supply shortages, construction costs, and the ongoing architect search, he can't give a definitive project timeline, but says he fully expects the new office to be ready by the next midterm election in 2026. So right now, here are the next steps for this project. Tomorrow, the County Executive Committee will meet and discuss this relocation plan, and then later this month, the Finance Committee will do the same.
McKenna, thank you. The now outlawed ballot drop boxes around Madison are now serving a new purpose. They have been painted black and covered in artwork by artist Jenny Holzer, including a quote from Sojourner Truth. Quote, "Truth is powerful and will prevail." The front of the drop boxes have also been redone to note the Wisconsin Supreme Court decision and a list of places where absentee ballots must now be returned following the ruling earlier this year. And in a statement, Madison's mayor, Sachi Rhodes Conway, wrote, quote, "Rather than removing these secure ballot drop boxes, we wanted to transform them to share the powerful words of Sojourner Truth and to convey our community's belief in democracy, voting rights, and the prevailing power of truth."
The Wisconsin Department of Justice today saying it will be ramping up efforts to better protect poll workers next month. Attorney General Josh Kaul said the state's intelligence center is ready to identify all and any potential threats. Wisconsin law outlaws using or threatening force to compel someone to vote, prevent them from voting, or influence their vote. It is also illegal to threaten an election official. And with the election just over a month away now, a reminder, News 3 Now and Channel3000.com is your home for campaign 2022 coverage.
You take a look now over Madison. Another mild fall day out there, but cooler weather is on the way later in the week. Julian Searai with a look now at our certified most accurate forecast. Julian?
That's right. So we're going to be ramping up and getting ready for some colder air by the time we get into the end of our week. But until then, enjoy what we have. We did have a couple of sprinkles and even some showers just south of Dane County. Still trying to linger a little bit towards the northwest of Janesville. But overall, about 98% of us are dry, and that's going to be the theme throughout the course of tonight. So as we take a look outside, cloud cover has really been blanketing us, and it will continue to blanket us throughout the overnight hours. But as we get into the later time, we will start to see lower 50s really hold firm for us here in Madison. Tonight, our low temperatures are going to be into the low 50s, around 51 degrees for Madison. But as we take a look throughout much of southern Wisconsin, we're all going to be holding on to the lower 50s for us, especially as we transition into tomorrow. tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a bit of a cooler day for us, into the low 60s, but the winds are really going to be the standout for us. Could start to see a couple of scattered showers rather early for tomorrow, but we'll plan that out and walk you through what to expect for your Thursday in just a few moments. Until then, back to you guys.
And Julian, thank you. It's really looking like fall out there. There are lots of leaves starting to change colors, and in some areas of the Midwest already getting to peak colors. But can switching between warm and cold switch up the colors that we see on the leaves?
Well, Armand Rahman finds it can have an impact, but probably not quite this weekend. Armand?
That's right, guys. According to the DNR, most of the state is at least 50% away from peak, and meteorologists tell me southern Wisconsin's going to hit that in just a couple weeks. But the climate throughout the year overall can change the color palette of leaves in autumn. A chillier end of the week is on the horizon, but don't let that rake in your plans to see the fall colors.
Northern Wisconsin, probably more central Wisconsin too, north of Devil's Lake State Park. I know they're starting to turn. I would say this weekend's going to be a good time for at least central Wisconsin to see it. And there are parts of southern Wisconsin that have started to turn too.
News 3 Now meteorologist Greg Barnhart says the level of frost we're expected to get with this week's cold front won't be severe enough to kill the leaves in southern Wisconsin before they get a chance to shine.
So I think we could get a great opportunity to see a couple weeks of peak season.
According to the Wisconsin DNR, the best autumn colors come when there's been a warm, wet spring, a summer that's not too hot or dry, and a fall with lots of warm, sunny days and cool nights. And when those fall leaves, well, fall depends mostly on sunlight.
And then how long they stay on is obviously how long we stay kind of wind-free, and obviously without precipitation too can prolong that.
Leaves also choose their outfits based on the weather. The DNR says that ideal autumn climate causes the leaves to make more anthocyanins, chemicals which help them recover nutrients. This leads to brighter reds and purples.
The extended looks favorable. There's really no huge system on the way through next week or even the following weekend yet. So the best thing you can hope for is dry conditions, calm winds to last when it's peak, and then you'll get a nice spectacular view.
And you can find the Travel Wisconsin Fall Color Report on the DNR's website to find out where in the state the foliage is in its peak.
Armand, thank you. A new tonight crews from several local agencies responding to a fire at the Maple Tree Supper Club this evening in McFarland, located at the intersection of Highway 51 and Burma Road. That fire broke out about 5:30. As of tonight, no injuries have been reported, and we're still waiting to hear about a possible cause.
Hundreds of thousands are still without power 1 week after Hurricane Ian struck the Florida Gulf Coast. Every day we are seeing new video of the destruction left behind. This video is from San Carlos Island. There is some good news. The Florida Department of Transportation has completed a temporary bridge reconnecting the once cut off Pine Island back to the main island. Today, President Biden visited Fort Myers and promised the federal government would help for as long as it takes to get everyone back on their feet. The president took a helicopter ride to survey just some of the damage. In the week since Hurricane Ian hit Florida, officials say they've distributed more than 9 million meals, 34 million bottles of water, and 500 generators.
New tonight, 13 students and one adult all taken to the hospital today after a crash involving a school bus in northeastern Wisconsin. Police said the bus from the Manawa School District was stopped at some railroad tracks in New London when it was rear-ended by a van this morning. According to authorities, the van driver and the 13 students sustained non-life-threatening injuries. Alcohol is not believed to be a factor in the crash. The Wisconsin Department of Transportation says the new Beltline Flex Lane is doing its job so far. New data shows drive times on the Beltline are down 30% in the past 2 months, even though traffic volume on the Beltline has actually risen during that time.
In Big Ten play, the Badger volleyball team is perfect at home, but still looking for their first road win conference play. Tonight, Wisconsin had an opportunity to get one in Indiana. Sports Director Zach Hanley is here with the highlights.
Yeah, it's a road trip week to the Hoosier State for the Badger volleyball team. Wisconsin gets 2 tough tests in a span of 4 days with matches against Indiana and Purdue. Up first, a stop in Bloomington, and they made it a quick stop. Badgers already up a set, and Daniel Hart going to give the Hoosiers a heart attack. The senior finished with 10 kills. Sarah Franklin added in 13 more as Wisconsin sweeps Indiana 3-0. And coming up later, it's week 6 of the Badger Blueprint. Jim Polzine and I break down the firing of Paul Chris Chris, Jim Leonard's interim label, and what's next for the program.
All right, Zach, look forward to that. Thank you. And check this out. Big international sports news. Ukraine has joined Spain and Portugal's bid to host the 2030 World Cup. The Spain, Portugal, and Ukraine bid for the 2013 marquee football tournament will compete against other partnership bids, including Egypt, Greece, and Saudi Arabia, as well as a South American bid from Uruguay, Argentina, Paraguay, and Chile. Still ahead tonight, the end of an era for Madison.
Plus, we'll take you out to Truex Field, where the 115th Fighter Wing is saying goodbye to the last F-16 jets.
Did you know Tim Michaels said people shouldn't be openly gay in public?
But I think when you bring it out of your house and onto the public street, that's where I differ.
Is that the kind of divisive radical you want as your governor?
National call centers, they're just not the way to go when you can meet with a trusted and knowledgeable Medicare insurance agent from Informed Choice Insurance Agency. Because nobody knows your local hospitals, doctors, and pharmacies like your local Informed Choice Insurance agent.
In a recent clinical study,
patients using Salonpas patch reported reductions in pain severity,
using less or a lot less oral pain medicines,
and improved quality of life. That's why we recommend Salonpas. It's good medicine.
Dear Detour, you took us off-road on the gnarliest trails. You asked us to measure up. So yeah, we did. When life slings you mud, sling it right back. Stay strong, Toyota Trucks.
Right now, get 2.49% APR for 48 months on a new Toyota Corolla, Camry, RAV4, Highlander, or Tacoma. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
Lean back and save at the Century House. Right now, buy stressless recliners, sofas, or office chairs and get up to $1,500 credit towards the purchase of more. Or save $400 on stressless signature-based recliners and ottomans and motorized classic power recliners. Don't wait. Take the opportunity to fill your home with stressless comfort for less. Shop the Century House, 3420 University Avenue in Madison.
Tim Michaels' company has been sued numerous times for sexual assault and harassment. Women said they were groped and pressured to have sex with their bosses. Those who spoke out were fired. Is that the kind of divisive radical you want as governor?
On the Jennifer Hudson Show, we're throwing it all the way back. There I go right there in the corner. Don't ask me what hairstyle I have. We've got the hilarious Hassan Minhaj.
That's a little zoom in right there. A little Indian Steve Harvey.
On the next Jennifer Hudson Show at 3. You're watching News 3 Now at 10.
Welcome back. It's Out with the Old, In with the New. The final F-16s assigned to the 115th Fighter Wing left Truex Field in Madison this morning. A small contingent of the jets from other units will temporarily operate from the airfield to conduct homeland defense training while the 115th transitions to the state-of-the-art F-35 fighter jets. Bad news, gas could start getting even more expensive once again.
OPEC is planning to slash oil production by 2 million barrels per day starting in November. It is the biggest cut since the start of the pandemic. Today's news came after the group of major oil producers, which includes Saudi Arabia and Russia, met for the first time in person since March 2020. The White House calls the plan short-sighted. If you're waiting for a better time to buy a car, you may have to keep waiting for a while. Continued auto parts shortages are driving average car prices higher. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes are making it more expensive to finance a vehicle. Plus, car companies and dealers have less incentive to take steps to bring down costs because demand is still vastly greater than supply.
After a delay due to Hurricane Ian, SpaceX and NASA launched their 6th crewed mission together from Kennedy Space Center today. On board, the first Russian cosmonaut to fly on a U.S. spacecraft in 20 years.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Engines full power.
And it was a picture-perfect launch, carrying a crew of 4 from sunny Cape Canaveral to the International Space Station. In July, Russia announced it will end its participation in the International Space Station in 2024. But until then, NASA and Russia's space agency have agreed to a seat swap to help each other stay in space.
And Julian C. Wright joins us now with a look at our forecast that's about to change.
Yes, it is. So we have to plan out our Thursday because it's going to be something we haven't felt in a while. And that's breezy conditions here in southern Wisconsin. Even though for tonight, we had a couple of spot-up showers near Janesville and areas just south of Dane County. That's pretty much going to end for us throughout the rest of tonight. What we need to be watching for now is the pickup of some of those winds, which we're not going to feel for tonight. But our temperatures also won't be as cool as they have been over the last couple. We've been in the lower to middle 40s. Now we're going to be in the lower 50s. Cloud cover is going to stick around, keeping temperatures near seasonable for this time of year. But as we transition into tomorrow, take note of what we're going to be seeing here. Opening of the clouds, and then we're going to see cloud cover return. By the time we're heading out the door, we are going to be seeing just a line of some pocket showers starting to roll its way in and develop a bit more into a line by the late morning hours. We are going to be looking at some rain mainly for northern parts of Dane County and then start to move its way southeast. So we could see areas throughout much of Dane County get some rain into the late morning and into our early afternoon hours. But also note that our temperatures are into the lower 60s rather quickly. So around noon, we're going to be in the lower 60s with the winds starting to pick up. So the rain's going to be moving right ahead of the cold front. And behind that, we are going to see the cold front move its way in by the time we get into our Thursday afternoon. Though temperatures are going to stay close to the 60-degree mark as we get into around the early afternoon. But then around 5 o'clock, we're going to see those wind speeds really start to pick up and get around 8 o'clock. Temperatures are going to drop rather quickly. You can see the 40s already for many areas just north of Dane County. And by the time we get to around the 10 o'clock hour, we're going to see those temperatures drop into the mid-40s and even colder by the time we get into our Friday morning. So Friday morning, just note, we're going to be seeing those upper 30s. Once again, you're going to need to have your heavy coat and be prepared for it to feel a bit like winter for us here in southern Wisconsin. Not a lot of improvements by the time we get into our Friday afternoon. Not looking for much in terms of showers, but overall things are going to be much colder by the time we get into our Friday. Outside of that, we're not looking for too much in terms of precipitation. Could see trace amounts close to 1/10 of an inch, but overall rain is not really going to be the biggest factor for us. It's going to be the cold and it's going to be the wind for this time of year. Temperatures starting overnights going into tomorrow. We're looking at the 30s sticking around until we get into our Sunday, and that's when we're going to see a bit of improvements for us here in southern Wisconsin. So the 3 things we'll need to know, let's just break it on down. We're going to be looking at a few isolated showers going into tomorrow for this evening, but outside of it, it's going to be windy, and then we are going to be looking at chilly conditions going in from tomorrow to Friday and heading into our Saturday. Frost is going to be very likely overnight Friday into our Saturday morning. But then it's going to be possible going into our Saturday overnight as well, because we're going to be seeing those temperatures into the upper 30s. But overall, things will not be too bad for us as we get into the rest of the weekend. And then heading into next week, we're going back to more seasonable and more comfortable as the 60s look to hang around for us before we see any storm chances in our forecast heading into Wednesday, guys.
All right, Julian, thank you. Coming up in sports, Jim Leonard, of course, named the Badgers interim head coach this week. Will Wisconsin give him that role permanently? Will Zach and Jim Polzine break it down next on the Badger Blueprint.
News 3 Now First Warn Weather is brought to you by Lazy Boy Home Furnishings and Decor.
Discover a shopping and design experience as comfortable as the furniture. Lazy Boy Home Furnishings and Decor. Schedule your free design consultation today.
It's Throwback Thursdays at Hy-Vee. This Thursday, Honeycrisp apples, only 88 cents a pound. And Brew Pub Pizza, only $3.99. Thursday only. And visit HyVeeDeals.com for even more deals.
Most senators couldn't tell you the cost of a gallon of milk. Thanks, Ruben. Or how much beef has gone up this year. But I'm not like most senators or any of the other millionaires running for Senate. My mom was a teacher and my dad worked third shift. I know how hard you work. And I know that by bringing manufacturing home, We create jobs and we lower costs. If we want to change Washington, we got to change the people we send there. I'm Mandela Barnes, and I approve this message.
The Internet of Things is evolving, creating the Internet of You. And Spectrum, America's leading internet and mobile provider, is bringing you seamless connectivity across all your devices. Introducing Spectrum One, Spectrum Internet with speeds of 300 megabits, advanced Wi-Fi, and Spectrum Mobile Unlimited, all for just $49.99 a month. Call 833-673-4999. Spectrum Internet delivers speeds up to a gig with over 99.9% network reliability. Advanced Wi-Fi provides enhanced security and privacy that automatically blocks threats to protect all of your devices. And Spectrum Mobile gives you unlimited talk, text, and data with nationwide 5G and the most reliable service coast to coast. Switch now. Call 833-673-4999. At Spectrum, it's not just about connecting things, it's about connecting you. Get it all with Spectrum One, Spectrum Internet, advanced Wi-Fi, and one line of Spectrum Mobile Unlimited for $49.99 a month. Call 833-673-4999 or visit a Spectrum store today.
Hi, I'm Deb. I'm from Wisconsin, and I'm a conservative. Tim Michael's position on abortion is too strict, too harsh. And while I am pro-life, I am also pro-woman, and I believe we have to be able to have exceptions for rape and incest. We need people that are reasonable when it comes to making laws about health issues and reproductive rights. There's no way I could vote for Tim Michaels for governor.
Republican Accountability PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
It's Throwback Thursdays at Hy-Vee. This Thursday, marinated pork loin or tenderloin, only $3.99. And Body Armor sports drinks, only 88 cents. Thursday only. And visit HyVeeDeals.com for even more deals.
I had to make an incredibly difficult decision today for changing leadership of our football program.
5 games into his 8th season as Wisconsin's head coach, Paul Chryst was informed that the team was moving on from his leadership. Chryst led the Badgers to 67 wins, 3 Big Ten West titles, and a 6-1 bowl record. But recently, that success hit a speed bump. UW is 15-10 in their last 25 games, and just 5-12 against teams ranked in the top 25 since 2018. And after back-to-back blowout losses, Chris McIntosh decided it was time for a change.
This is a decision that's based upon where we're at as a program. And, you know, I think it's important to make a decision when I feel it's the right time, given the circumstances of where we're at as a program right now. And so it's a tough time to make a transition. But I felt it was the right time.
He's Jim Polzine from the Wisconsin State Journal. I'm Zach Hanley. This is the Badger Blueprint. Mid-season shakeup isn't normal for Wisconsin, especially because a week ago it felt like Chryst wasn't on the hot seat. What changed for Mac, and did this move shock you 5 games in?
Shocked might not be strong enough. I asked that with Chris McIntosh last Wednesday, so 4 days before Paul Chryst was fired, and McIntosh gave a vote of confidence to Paul Chryst. He said he was a guy that he'd worked with for 7 years. He described previous ruts Wisconsin had been through and how they'd always come out the other side, and made it very clear, at least to me, that Paul Chryst was the guy that was going to get this through. And 4 days later, he fired him. I realize a lot happened in between there, especially an embarrassing home loss. But yes, I'm stunned. This is not how Wisconsin typically operates, not how I expected Chris McIntosh to operate.
The pride of Tony, Wisconsin is now the new head Badger for at least 7 games. Jim Leonard was named the team's interim head coach, and he is Wisconsin football. Leonard was a walk-on that turned into a 3-time All-American and one of the best defensive backs to ever play in Madison. This year is his 7th as a member of the coaching staff, and as far as his new role, well, he says he's ready.
To have an opportunity to be in this position is not one that I take lightly and am very excited for. Very mixed emotions at this point, but I feel like I can take this opportunity and help this place grow.
Tough situation to take over, but big picture-wise, is the job his if he wants it?
Yeah, I would think so, Zach. You know, I think you don't make this move unless there's a guy like Jim Leonhard sitting there who's probably ready, who Chris McIntosh considers ready to take this job. And I'd be surprised if he's not the coach in the opener for 2023. I realize that Chris McIntosh has already fooled me once, so he could fool me twice. But I don't think you judge Jim Leonhard by wins and losses down the stretch here, because you're putting him in an incredibly difficult position.
The biggest challenge for Leonhard now isn't game planning or figuring out who's calling what on Saturday. It's getting his players to compartmentalize their emotions with what happened. Paul Chryst was a huge reason why they came to Wisconsin, and now he's not with the program anymore.
Anytime you go through something as a family, I mean, you all feel responsibility. I don't think that this should at all fall on any one person's shoulders. I mean, I think that's why this group is upset.
Obviously, the situation is not easy, and nobody wanted to see Coach Chryst go. So I think for me personally, it's fuel. You know, like Torch had mentioned, it's really on us.
You can't really imagine what it's been like for those guys this week, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, you sometimes forget that these are 18 to 22-year-olds and their emotions are raw. And not just the players either, but it's the coaching staff too. Some of those guys have been with Paul Chryst for a long, long time. So I think part of them is feeling for their colleague and worrying about him. I think a Monday, the first 24 hours on the job for Jim Leonhard, a lot of that was spent just dealing with emotions. Forget the X's and O's, forget Northwestern, forget scouting reports. It's just trying to get this team in the right place emotionally, and that's not an easy task for Jim Leonhard.
Now, a move like this can go one of two ways. They can either rally around each other and turn the season around, or not. And Leonhard knows it's time to prove what kind of team they want to be.
There is no special talk. There is no players-only meeting. There is only coaches-only meeting, right? It's getting it done at this point, right? We know the issues, right? We know we have to play better.
And coming up, there is still a game to play. Why a trip to Northwestern is always a tough out. More Badger Blueprint next.
Welcome to Dwellings.
Shop our fabulous showroom, Hard Rock Road, Fitchburg.
Mass shootings, school shootings, and violent crime are on the rise, and Ron Johnson is making things worse. He abandoned law enforcement, voting against funding for the police, preventing local departments from hiring more officers, but supported flooding our streets with guns and making it easier for violent criminals and domestic abusers to get them. Ron Johnson is failing to keep us safe. Everytown for Gun Safety Victory Fund is responsible for the content of this ad.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1, what's your why? More epic energy, better sleep, blow off steam? Step 2, join Planet Fitness for $1 down, $10 a month, cancel anytime, and get moving. Go cardio crazy in our clean and spacious clubs. Jam out on the strength machines and get down with some dumbbells. Step 3, bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for $1 down, $10 a month, cancel anytime. Deal ends Friday, October 14th.
Wisconsin is a home of workers. We know what needs to get done, and we do it. Yet, we've been hit hard, some harder than others. Our contact may be limited, but we still can lift each other up. The Keep Wisconsin Warm Cool Fund and your local energy providers are working together to help keep your heat and power on. You may not ask for it, but we want you to know we're here.
Planning a remodel? Don't toss your cabinets, furniture, and appliances. Donate to Habitat Restore. Your items stay out of landfills while proceeds create housing solutions for hardworking families. Build a stronger community with Habitat Restore of Dane County.
A 12-year-old girl can't legally drive a car. At 12, she can't even vote. But if this little girl were tragically raped or a victim of incest and became pregnant, Radical Tim Michaels would force her to deliver the baby. He said it's, quote, not unreasonable for the state government to mandate rape victims to give birth. Would it be unreasonable if he were forcing this on you? Let him know on Election Day.
Welcome to Dwellings.
Shop our fabulous showroom, Hard Rock Road, Fitchburg.
The Wisconsin gubernatorial debate, October 14th at 7 p.m.
Want to know what the weather is like right now where you live? Download the First Warn Weather app and I'll give you an hour-by-hour forecast. The First Warn Weather app. Get it now.
Powered by News 3 Now.
Playing a team at home that's always given us trouble at their place, and we gotta bring our A game going in there.
That team is Northwestern, a program that's been a thorn in Wisconsin's side since the mid-'80s. In the last 31 meetings, the Badgers have won 16, the Wildcats have won 15. And recently in Evanston, where the two play Saturday, it's been bad for the Badgers. They've lost 6 of 7 at Ryan Field. Jim Leonard never won there as a player. Will he start off his head coaching career with a win there?
This is a tough one to predict. I mean, I think most weeks have been tough to predict. This is really tough. I'm going to say Wisconsin wins 14-13, but it's all based on how they are emotionally.
I think the guys rally around each other and get it done as well. It's probably going to be an ugly win, but a win they desperately need. Badgers by 5. And that's it for this week's Badger Blueprint. Thanks for watching.
Those guys are wrong. I'm saying Badgers by 20. Let's go.
I like the enthusiasm.
Well, they're in Evanston on Saturday, but the cooler weather's really ahead of that. It might be a little chilly coming off the lake in Evanston on Saturday, but really tomorrow's going to be a windy, blustery day here, right?
Right. So tomorrow will be the blustery day. That's kind of the big theme for us. It's going to be a bit cooler than what we've had. We've been in the 70s for the last couple of days. So going into the 60s won't be too much of a shock, but then the 50s for Friday is where we're going to be seeing that shock for us. It's going to be colder on Friday. Saturday, especially when the Badgers heading into Evanston, it's going to be a little chilly, a little nippy, but nothing too crazy for us until we get into the overnight where temperatures will be dropping back into the 30s. Then for the rest of the weekend and heading into next week, back to seasonable. We're in the lower 60s once again, so it's going to be good weather until we see some storm chances on Tuesday.
All right, Julian, thank you. And thank you for joining us for News 3 Now at 10.
Do something good. Have a great night, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.